Well, I don't know why it doesn't give us our virtual background here.
Something's going on today with StreamYard.
StreamYard is screwing up people, so you just have to imagine behind me is something really, really cool. Uh, I don't know. Let's say like a big dinosaur's walking around or something.
Just go into your virtual backgrounds and adjust. That's what happened.
All right. Let me go to settings, virtual background. There we go.
As far as why I'm like 80 feet tall, I can't really tell you.
Yeah, we're in the desert, and he's got the house crashing into the NCAA. Welcome everybody to another episode of Moen After Dark here on a Sunday. 36,800 some odd minutes and counting until college football kicks off with Georgia Tech and Florida State. And Dublin, Ireland. Dublin, Ireland, and the devil in the bottle.
It's going to be good to actually have something we can argue about that has results that we don't need, Google, ChatGPT or Google to help us understand.
Right. And ChatGPT, don't ask it to make any picks for you guys. It will not make good picks. Just letting you know from experience. It will not make good picks. You're better off just flipping a coin.
Or you're better off asking Flugar.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't ask Flugar to pick a game. Let's say hi to some people who've come in here already. We're just going to kind of do a free flow tonight, guys. Let's get some questions in. We're going to talk some football. We'll talk a little realignment. We'll talk. I don't know. We'll talk. Ryan Willie was the first in the chat. Good to see Evil Badger. Stormy Cyclone, if you guys get a chance, take a look at College Football Addiction Saturday podcast. I did. I like TJ Pittenger as a person, and I like TJ Pittenger as a person, but I think he gets a little clickbaity.
I mean, anything I say is going to be taken as biased about it, but I did watch it, so I know what you're talking about. Happy to give any opinions that people ask questions on. But yeah, I mean, he's just basically a mouthpiece for whatever information Regal Knoll is giving in terms of that specific episode. And it would be awesome if that happened, but I mean, I don't really know what to say to that one.
Yeah, I don't see it happening, but hey, you know what? Who knows? If he's right, I'll buy him a Coke, Joaquin Morales, don't forget to smash that like button. Thank you, Joaquin. Nathan is here. Good to see you, Nathan. The Chad. If it's true, Katie Big the Door. Thank you, Katie Bardor. Got that. Joaquin Morales. We'll watch show later. Spending time with Mama. Are we expecting something this week from Florida's AG about the ACC contract with ESPN? She has it, but I mean they're going to redact trade secrets. So.
Yeah, I mean it's I think it's due August 1st or something like that. So that's this week.
Yeah.
If it's really what happens in the redactions, it's either a complete nothing burger, a little bit of curiosity, or wow, the definition of trade secrets is not as big as we are expecting, so we find out more information.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if it's a trade secret, I know how it is. I know it is in the state of Ohio. If you give a FOIA request for something, they call it a trade secret. You ain't getting it. So. Oh, Timothy Green's in the house. Good to see you, Mr. Mountaineer. Daniel Gygax is in the house. Another Mountaineer. Vox Quindaro is in the house. A Kansas Jayhawk. Saluting the Rock Chalk Mafia.
I got West Virginia in my top 25 since we did double dose, so I'm definitely a believer.
I got you guys in the top 25 as well. So RT's in the house. Good to see RT. Caleb Ramirez. What up, buddy? Good to see you, Caleb. Carrigo Knowles is in the house. What up, peeps? Steve Moser says it's not dark here yet. It's not dark here either, but, in daylight savings time, it totally is. Shonsky says, what's up, Moan and Rant? Good to see you, Shonsky.
Hello, man. Good to see you.
Bob Swanger's here, who is ready for some college football. I am.
Absolutely.
Conundrum says free flow, dangerous. Very true. Daniel Gygax says there was a radio station that did coin flips for NFL picks. The coin finished 4th of the 7 for picking for the season. I once heard Artie Lang play a chicken in college or in pro football. Chicken won. Sanders' chicken won. So
that sounds about right statistically too. We'll have to have you do some of that analysis, but sounds about right.
This is a good question. What school not in the Power Four that'll be fun to watch this year? I have Boise State. I don't have them in my top 25 yet, but I've got them making the college football playoff.
See, Moen and I do this show together for a reason, because great minds do think alike for the most part. We also try to recruit the same players, but I actually do have Boise State in the bottom of my top 25, and I don't know if it's fun to watch, but I think they're going to be good, and they're my G5 pick as well.
Yeah. Tulane, Memphis, some other G5 picks to keep an eye on. Liberty. James Madison, I think they move up to P4 this year, or G5 this year. So James Madison too. Free flow and Moen is like progressive jazz. Maybe great, maybe not. Either way, Georgia Tech.
Well, in
it's
theory,
about
there
the
would be
notes
free
I don't
drinks.
play.
There would be free drinks at those slots. So,
almost gone, guys.
Didn't you just get that last week?
2 weeks ago. And that bottle that you gave me, I'm halfway done with it already. That stuff's like candy. NFL is this Thursday. Yes, the Hall of Fame game in Akron. Hopefully the rain holds out and it doesn't rain it out, but they're calling for rain.
Yeah, and if you're in your NFL fix, if you have Max or HBO and you haven't watched the off-season version of Hard Knocks with the Giants, it's pretty excellent. Just to see that sort of different take with everything that was going on with them before you get ready for the new season of Hard Knocks to hit.
I just realized it's Canton, not Akron, people. Don't want anybody from Canton to stab me. Your opinions on Ross Dellinger being part of the Big Ten Network crew this year? I thought it was a good hire. I think both the pickups from the Pac-12 network were good hires. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's a good reporter. Half of the time it's either him or Pete Thamel that we're winding up quoting, if it's not something from Matt Baker or the North Carolina crew. That's like sort of the biggest sources of truth. I know that the Brett McMurphy stuff gets people triggered more, but I think Ross will be a good addition.
Timothy Green says, I would personally like to thank the both of you for putting West Virginia and your top 25 picks. Thank you very much. I don't know that I'll be thanking us till we see how it shakes out, buddy. My picks last year weren't so hot. I was colder than Greg.
I'm taking the early before they became a sexier pick to add on. And we were talking about them in a positive light before some of that momentum started to kick in.
Yeah, I tell you, I played two people with West Virginia in college football 25, and I'm telling you what, that quarterback can scramble. At least you can in that game. I couldn't take him down, so I did win both those games though, so good for me. Alani Ted, good evening. Good to see you, Ted. How's you doing? Vax Quindaro says Army is his pick outside the P4 to do some damage this season.
Well, that would be amazing if they actually did it. Can you imagine if Army actually got that spot?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that Army and Navy game and how it's a week out from, playoff selection. It could be wild. Jose says, my money is on Liberty running the table in Coosa and getting the 12th seed. That's not a bad pick.
It's not. I just can't get behind Liberty for some reason. I don't know why. Wouldn't be surprised, though.
Chris G says, what's up? CFB is coming, boys. It is. We were counting it down. It's 36,850 minutes from now. So if you're keeping count at home, just start counting real slow, and we'll get there. Les Austin Jr., good evening, everyone. Good evening to you, Les. West Virginia is a pretty solid pick, honestly. I think so, too. I think they're going to surprise some people. I could easily see it being an 8 or a 9-win team.
I wouldn't doubt that whatsoever.
Washington is going to surprise teams this year. Got 2 guys back from injuries who played their O-line.
Define surprise. Daniel, what does that mean to you?
That's true, yeah.
Does that mean they're in the top 25 versus not in the top 25? Because right now I have them in my top 25 as an example.
I don't either. I don't even have them in my top 6 in the Big Ten. So
yeah, they're not even in my just looking in, just missed category. They're not there. Others receiving votes. It's not that I don't believe in the program or that I don't think Jed Fisher is a good coach. I think they'll be fine. Just it's going to take a second to adapt to all those departures and coaching changes in the new conference.
Garrett Green at WVU is why WVU will be Big 12 contenders. Yeah, he can scramble on the game, so he keeps rolling out and throwing on me. Mountaineers and the points at home versus PSU might be a winner. If it's more than 10 points, take the points. How come the Marines don't have a team? They do. It's Navy.
Because they don't have their own team because they just can't never get a ride anywhere. The other guys won't take them when they know they might lose if they play them on the field. But it is technically Navy.
Virginia Tech is a 40-1 shot in the ACC. Could be a chunk of change if they shock everyone. I've actually got them in my top 4 in the ACC. So I wouldn't consider it too shocking. I've got them top 4 in the ACC.
Yeah, I have them in the top 25, I believe, or in the just outside. I have them in the 4 or 5 teams in the ACC. I would be surprised if they got ahead of Miami, Clemson, or Florida State, but
Daniel thinks Washington will do 8-4. Conundrum says they'll do 7-5. I'm looking at more of a 6-6 type season for them.
Yeah, not feeling the Huskies.
Yeah, is that Mad Max on the left? Yes, it's Mad Max, just without the money or the anti-Semitism. Marines are part of the Navy Department. That's correct, Lee. Thank you. DoorDash is there. Just in case you were wondering, your DoorDash has arrived. What happens if 2 G5 schools are undefeated with similar power rankings in the college football playoff spot?
I just think that depends upon how high up they are. If they're 13, 14, no, they're probably not getting that second spot. If it's somehow they get into the top 10, then we'll see how fair everything really is.
I would have to think that they would have to allow the second G5 in their spot undefeated.
Yeah, they would be exposed if they didn't. But I think if you get any area where they're on that edge of 12, 13, 14, I don't think they're getting the benefit of the doubt. You'll have Greg Sankey on camera crying about their 15th team who lost to 4 teams above them and blah, blah.
Yeah, I hear you, but I just can't see them. If there's 2 G5 schools undefeated, leaving one of them out. I think they'll both. One will be in the G5 spot and one will be in the at-large spot.
Yeah, undefeated, I think, is different. If it's just power rankings and when it's not so much about losses, it's a different way of looking at it. I think that optically, I don't know if they'll make it. I would like to think they would. It would make it more interesting and curious and a couple of good underdog games.
How many seconds until Bama versus Wisconsin? You'll have to tell me. I don't know what day and time that game is. Let me know, and I can get on the Google and figure it out for you, brother.
Are you really looking forward to that one, Brian? Truly?
I'm telling you, Wisconsin's going to surprise some people this year. I'm not saying they're going to beat Alabama. They're going to surprise some people this year. Carrier Go Noel says, I order so much DoorDash, I called my dog Dash.
Makes sense. That's about, it's more Uber Eats here, but kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another, right?
Yeah, I can't even get UPS to come down my driveway, yo. I can't get DoorDash out here. Friends Call Me Sean says that second undefeated G5 will get Florida State, and he does not think they will get in.
Well, that I don't know. I think it's a little bit different at 3 and the 4 teams versus 12 if you get to a truly undefeated team.
Does Georgia Tech have a chance to beat Florida State? I believe Florida State pulls away in the fourth and wins by 14. Do they have a chance to? Yes. Will they? No.
Yeah. I mean, Florida State, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes them a heartbeat to get going. I believe that Florida State is defensively, they're amazing. I think they're going to have a great defense. They are replacing, and I can be corrected, somewhere north of 80% of their offensive production from last year. So that might just take a second to put it on the field. But I think towards the end, they just have too much talent to have a concern there.
And Georgia Tech's another team that's going to be improved this season. Again, I'm not saying they're going to beat Florida State, but keep your eyes on Georgia Tech this season. I think they're going to be a whole lot better than people give them credit for. Big Lubbock is in the house. Good to see you, Big Lubbock. A whole lot of FSU fans said the same thing about leaving a undefeated ACC champ out last year. Okay. Ryan Willie says, hell yeah, on Wisconsin. On Wisconsin. On Luke Fickell. Mr. Monkey says, we actually talked about this at the beginning of the show, but we don't think, we're just not 100% sold on it. If it happens, I'm buying TJ Pittenger a Coke.
Look, somebody is super right or is going to have not just like one of those, hey, I took an L thing, but I took an L, my credibility has been destroyed forever kind of thing.
That's Nightbot. September 14th, big noon kickoff. All right, well, 2 weeks, so I could figure that up real quick if I had my calculator out. But it's 2 more weeks from the Florida State game then. So 2 weeks and 36,813 minutes. So 813 minutes. So there you go. Timothy Green says, my driveway is a little over 1 mile long and it's all dirt. Oh man, I've got slag on mine and it's only about 3/4 of a mile and they still won't come down. Vegas can be beat the first week of the year. They need 3 weeks to get the odds right. Okay. I will be betting the house then on the first 3 weeks of this season.
That for like week 0 or week 1? I guess both of those apply.
Right. It's saying 3 weeks. The first week of the year, they need 3 weeks to get the odds right. Tim and Uber Eats or DoorDash doesn't quite deliver to BIM. You're exactly right, sir. Friends call me Sean. I love TJ, but he listens to too much Regal Noel, and I think a little genetics. Yeah, I like TJ as a person a lot. I think he's a great guy. I think sometimes he gets a little clickbaity with his titles and whatnot. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know him as a person at all. I know him as a Noel with years of trolling Miami before he started college football addiction. So, but he's entertaining with what he does and good is a good YouTube creator for that regard. But I would love for him to be right. To be clear, it would be fascinating to watch what happens and see how that everything goes. But hard as it may be to believe, I feel bad for Florida State fans who are getting their emotional roller coaster, sent into overdrive, like they're trying to break a Guinness Book of World Records with how many hills they're going up and down constantly. So,
how will Colorado do against San Diego State University? South Dakota State University. I think they'll hold their own against South Dakota State. I think the big test for Colorado is that Nebraska game.
I do not have Colorado highly ranked in my Big 12 rankings.
The only way 2 undefeated G5 teams get in is if both will have to be ranked in the top 10 and pray like hell.
Well, that helps Liberty.
There we go. Liberty's got the pray thing down. I have a question for the panel, please. Do either of you think there will be an undefeated team in the Power for this year? And if so, who?
I do not, actually. I mean, Oregon's my number 1 pick and my champion in theory, to reveal something that's not exactly a unique take. But I just don't see that happening with any of the Power Four schools, because even them, if I pick them, I just think that gauntlet of all of the travel plus a new conference, everyone's going to slip up, which is going to make it super interesting for the conference championships and what the tiebreakers are along the way as that becomes more clear. But that's my take. I don't know. What about you, Moen? You think somebody's going undefeated from the Power Four?
This is an interesting question because in the past, I think now you can afford to slip up. Coaches might make different calls than they would have in the past when you couldn't afford to slip up. So you might see people getting pulled and just taking a loss on certain games where you're down, heavy in the fourth and you don't want to lose any starters. You pull them. And whereas in the past, you would play like hell to keep that undefeated streak going. I mean, probably the two that have the best chance, or I should say the three that have the best chance, are Ohio State, Oregon, and Georgia. Ohio State and Oregon have to play each other, so one of them is going to knock the other one off. Georgia, though, I think Georgia's got enough talent that they can pull it off.
Yeah. For me, if I thought one of who I think are going to be the P4 conference champions had a shot of going undefeated the most, I actually think it's probably Utah from the Big 12 side. I'm not predicting that, but that's the one I wouldn't be surprised if they have like enough of a gap and things just fall the right way for them versus the others. But I'm not personally predicting anybody to go undefeated.
Cam could go undefeated in his 19th season there, so we'll see. Conundrum says the Irish might be undefeated. Pass.
Don't see that one.
I will pass. We will see how good Oregon is when they aren't the underdog.
They're just a very talented team. We shall see.
A talented team with a lot of money.
The Ohio State guy just said that. Just wanted to make sure we noted that for the
Ohio
record.
State's at like 20 million. Oregon's at like 36. So, I mean, it ain't even close to the amount of money that they're putting out there right now. Talk about that house settlement. That house settlement can't come soon enough to get Phil Knight out of there. Pick a P4 team plus 1,000 to make the playoff. I'd have to look up the odds to find the teams that are doing that, but I would say Virginia Tech out of the ACC.
Oklahoma State out of the Big 12, but I don't know where the money lines are. I just know that they're showing up in like the 15 to 25 rankings. So I don't even know whether that counts. I don't know if anybody in the top 25 preseason actually is going to be a plus 1,000 to make the playoff when you only have to be like theoretically 12th. So I think you have to probably pick from fairly far away, if I'm not mistaken.
In either the SEC or Big Ten, do you think it's possible you could see teams playing 3 times? Yes, it's absolutely possible, and it might actually happen this year. Ohio State, Oregon might end up playing each other 3 times.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State could end up playing each other 3 times. I'm not 100% sure on the schedule for Georgia, but I'm sure that they could end up playing somebody 3 times. But
I think it's very possible that could happen depending upon how the seeding breaks in the playoff.
Hell, there's teams outside of the conferences that could play each other twice. Texas and Michigan could both make it into the playoffs and play each other. So we'll see. Daniel Gygax affirms Conundrum. Notre Dame isn't in a power conference. That's correct. They're a conference unto themselves. Notre Dame will lose at least 3 games. Texas A&M, USC, and Florida State. They'll definitely lose that Florida State game. Texas A&M is a tough one. I put them in my top 25, but I really want to see how they play first. I like Elko as a coach.
I do not have Texas A&M in my preseason top 25. They're just on the outside looking in.
Oklahoma State's a plus 700, so you need to get somebody a little more obscure. So probably West Virginia, I would say, is probably a plus 1,000.
Yeah, possibly. That could be one. They're on the fringes of some of those preseason predictions.
I think most likely scenario, everyone stays in the ACC for 26-27 seasons. Then they start leaving. Question is if ESPN financially costs them gazillions by extending ACC contract. Hopefully they don't. Well, we'll find out by February for sure. Or if you believe TJ, you'll find out this week.
Yeah, for sure. The 25 season for sure. 26 most likely. 27 is where the wild card could be.
Let's see. You buy a good team, but you coach a great team. But Dan Lanning is a good coach. I have to give Oregon credit for that. Dan Lanning is a very good coach. He gets some kids motivated. They just can't beat Washington. Speaking of Washington, there's Washington's logo. Stormy Cyclone says, almost feels like OSU coach has more pressure on him than Florida coach, even though they have different expectations. You know, Ryan Day's going to have a lot of leeway because even if he does lose that Michigan game, if he makes the playoffs, he can make a playoff run. That would probably save his job. With Billy Napier, I think anything short of like an 8-win season, 8 or maybe even 9-win season, he's toast. We talked about it on Friday's show. He could be toast 4 games into the season. Buckeyes and Hawkeyes could play 3 times. That's true. They could. WVU was 1,400 3 weeks ago at Harrah's and Tahoe. Yeah, West Virginia would be another good one. Virginia Tech, West Virginia. We'll see. Got a super chat here from our buddy Ryan Willie, the evil badger. Let's give him an evil laugh. Until the Nebraska quarterback proves he can play, I don't buy the hype. Sorry, I have PTSD from Mertz and Mordecai. Yeah, talking about Graham Mertz, he's at Florida, and Billy Napier tried to say he was the best quarterback in the SEC or something along those lines, and I don't think so. So thank you for the super chat, but I think we need to worry more about how TVD plays this year than too much about how Dylan Raiola plays. Because, I mean, if he plays poorly, they can always chalk it up and go, well, he's a freshman. He's a true freshman. So, all right, guys. Looks like Rock and Rant's having some trouble, or he's playing a really dangerous game of a staring contest with me. I don't know. So we're going to carry on without him. Keep your comments coming in chat. FSU versus Clemson or Miami could be a 3-game matchup this year. Yeah, Miami. You know, unfortunately, Rock and Rant's not here to talk about it, but Miami's looking really strong this year. They've recruited really well. They've got the pieces. They brought in Cam Ward. Got a lot of speed up on the defensive line. They should be a competitor in the ACC. I've got them number 2 in my ACC finals. I've got Florida State, Miami, Clemson, and Virginia Tech. And then Louisville. Line Ted, do you think with NIL teams have even less of a short leash with struggling coaches? That's a great question. I think they do, because those boosters now have so much control that they can flick that switch at it used to be, hey, we're not going to pay for a new facility. Now it's going to be, hey, we're not going to pay for a new star quarterback. We're not going to buy that receiver. We're not going to pick up the option on that linebacker for you unless you change coaches. So I think there will be more of a short leash with NIL. Am I going to Eugene for the game? I am not. I will be sitting here in Nelsonville, Ohio for that game. So unfortunately, I could not afford to fly to Eugene. I probably couldn't afford the ticket to the game, to be honest with you. I know the tickets for the Ohio State-Michigan game are already allegedly going for, upwards of 2,000s. So, you there, Rock and Rant?
I am, at least in terms of audio for a second. We'll try to figure out what's going on with the computer, but hopefully you guys can hear me at least.
We can hear you. You're good.
All right.
I talked a little bit about Miami. Do you want to touch base on Miami?
What was the question or the take there?
That Florida State, Miami, and Clemson could all end up in a 3-game series this year?
Oh, I absolutely think so. I think it's, well, Miami and Clemson can't because they don't play in the regular season this year. I don't remember if Clemson's playing Florida State during the regular season, but Miami and Florida State, I think, it's quite possible they could play in the ACC championship game in the regular season for sure. And then, however, the seedings fall, but Miami Clemson definitely would not be that combination. Whether I'd have to double check Clemson's schedule to see if that's a possible scenario with Florida State.
Rock and Rant's internet connection is struggling.
I couldn't care less about the team struggling.
It is having some issues. It's been having issues. It's not even the connection. It's been StreamYard related as well. I don't know what's going on, but the phone seems to be working for the audio side at least.
Yeah, that's all we need. I'll just be the eye candy for this show. Shonsky says, I don't know about that, Moen. OSU alumni will not be happy with Ryan Day if he loses to Michigan again. I think he's in real trouble losing to Michigan again. You're right. They won't be happy if he loses to Michigan again. But if he makes a playoff run and wins them a national championship, it'll be forgiven.
He's got to do something, though. Like, he just has that feeling of, there's just something missing in whatever he's pulling off, right? Like, I mean, better. You're following him all the time. But from afar, he just has that smell of can't get over the hill.
Who is a G5 coach you could see moving up to a Power 4 school?
Well, I would have said Rhett Lashley, but he already made the jump by bribing and getting into the ACC from SMU. So, that's a really good question. There's nobody that's necessarily jumping to mind because I don't even know that some of the people that we think might want to do that are, whether they would leave. Like, to me, I look at the schools that have somebody in a position to possibly get into the playoff or just on the outside. So you get the head coaches of Liberty, Boise State, or going to be targets for somebody, whether there's the right fit. Those are probably the ones you'd be looking for if they have the seasons that everybody expects for them.
Yeah, I would say, I think Tom Herman's still coaching at FAU. Yeah, I would say Tom Herman at FAU.
Yeah, that's a good call. Unless he's the Tim O'Brien of FAUs. I mean, not Tim O'Brien.
Tim Beck?
No, Boston College guy, sorry.
Oh, Bill O'Brien.
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, I like Tom Herman. I think he might make a comeback at a school. It'd have to be a small school, but they might have to take a chance on him. He did well at Houston. Which 4 schools get the first round bye? In my playoff, I believe it was Oklahoma State coming out of the Big 12, Ohio State coming out of the Big 10, Georgia coming out of the SEC, and Florida State coming out of the ACC.
Yeah, I had Oregon, Texas, Utah. I didn't have Miami because I figured everyone was going to then accuse me of being a homer. And then I realized I actually believe Miami's going to win, so I have Miami in.
Yeah, I got them at number 2. I don't think that they can get over the hump yet. I think they'll mess up a game somewhere. Mr. Ed Wayner's in the house. Good to see you, Mr. Ed Wayner. Stormy Cyclone, is there any news out of North Carolina courts coming up? Not that I'm aware of. I think we're going to see these court cases settle down at least until we get into the season. So
yeah, we still have the appeals court issue to deal with in North Carolina, and I'm deferring to our audience member and community member Justin about how long that could take for that next level of the appeals that are going on to actually get heard.
I thought the SEC just hated Florida State until I looked at the Gators schedule. SEC did them no favors. Yeah, there's not. It's hard to see 9 wins there with Graham Mertz as your quarterback.
It's hard to see 5 wins there with that schedule.
Yes. It's like I said, if we were going to bet the over-under on 4 games for Billy Napier to be fired, I'd say under.
Oh, yeah, I am not. Conversely, if Miami doesn't do their job on August 31st, I'll lose my mind. But I think that Napier is not making it to the Florida State he might make the Florida State game, but it's probably the last game. It's just to me, it's a lottery question of who gets to put him out of Florida fans' misery, or at least the Florida fans who are actually paying attention, not the ones who are just like slurping their way to heaven.
Right. Well, I think they would probably try for the Ed Ogeron path, where they would just promote an assistant and see if he catches on.
Right.
Daniel Gorby, good to see you, Daniel. Could ESPN be waiting on extension of the media rights 2027-36 and trying to get the ACC to 9 conference games? I don't know, because I think the contract, the way it's written out, is 8 games regardless. So,
yeah, I don't know why the ESPN would be trying to add a 9th game when they resist. I mean, I know they're going to for the SEC at some point, but they haven't yet. So I don't know why they would suddenly want more games from the ACC, unless they're just trying to give them a way to keep their money from getting cut too much if the teams leave, and just by give us more inventory and you get the same price.
OPD Don, Florida won't fire Billy Boy. I just read that in Hannibal Lecter's voice inside my head. They play the same teams in 2025, only not all in a row. So why fire someone when the new guy has to face that in year 1? Because it's year 1, you can forgive them in year 1.
For sure. And if they have the kind of season we're thinking about, it's going to put whoever's following even worse shape. I don't know where they are recruiting rankings wise right now, and it doesn't ultimately matter until signing day. But the last time I did check was a couple of weeks ago, and at best they were in the 50s, and you cannot be an SEC school in the 50s. And I'm sure that generally that they would come up further as time and people commit, because they are still an SEC school and a theoretically premier program. But if they tank in recruiting, like often happens in a coach in that kind of situation, they can't afford to have a year of a big talent deficit when they've already been going down.
Yeah. Well, they could seal it with a huge hire, but I mean, I don't know who the hire would be. I don't know who is that. Lane Kiffin. If you could bring in a Lane Kiffin, year 1, maybe you don't slip in talent. Maybe he brings enough people. He steals enough recruits from Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Florida will go big game hunting on this next one. I don't think they can afford to take a chance again.
Yeah. SEC hates the whole damn state of Florida.
Pretty much. I think that's a fair statement. But the good news is that the whole damn state of Florida hates the ACC back.
Clemson and Miami are Florida State's protected rivals. Dennis Hattie thinks this is a great look for you, Rock and Rant. The little icon.
I tried to stay off of camera for months and months and months, so I'm totally fine.
It actually looks like a little bear when I come to think of it. Put a couple ears at the top there, that'd be a little bear.
Welcome, Cal.
Vox Quindaro says, how long before athletic directors are supplanted by athletic department presidents, professional executives that oversee everything? They've actually started basically hiring GMs at a lot of these athletic departments just to oversee everything. So you're not too far off. Director of player personnel, I should say.
They're depending upon the school, there are people that are approximating some of the professional setups. It's not, and it'll become even more obvious with the coaching caps coming down.
Shonsky brings up Bronco Mendenhall as a G5 candidate that would go upwards. It could be. He's had some success in the Power 4 before.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, he's got a great first name, so
Yeah, there you go. My prediction, this is from Timothy Green. My prediction is that Ohio State does beat Michigan this year for sure. I think they're going to make us their Super Bowl game, if you know what I mean. Ryan Day is John Cooper reincarnated. That's not true. Ryan Day had success in the postseason. John Cooper couldn't beat Michigan or get a bowl win. So,
but there's just something about Ryan Day that's fundamentally more annoying to maybe not to an Ohio State fan, but as an outsider, he's just something about him annoys me. Maybe it's the NIL deal with the beard, the coloring and stuff. I'm not sure.
Isn't Rich Rod at a G5 school? He might make a comeback. I can't imagine anybody's going to hire Rich Rod.
I do not believe. that Rich Rod is making a comeback, which is what he's done enough damage. Like he had his moment, right, where he just was like the flash. He's a flashing, a shooting star. He had some interesting things going on, and has not delivered for anyone. I mean, I'm sure the West Virginia fans in the chat are not advocates for that, unless they don't like your school.
Yeah, I remember that year he should have went to the national title game and he blew it. Ohio State would have had another national championship if he'd have just beat Pittsburgh. Whatever. Ryan Willie says, I'm ready for some football. You and me both. Thursday Hall of Fame game. We can watch NFL football at least. High school football start here real soon too. Lane Kiffin, next Gator head ball coach. Yeah, I agree. Ryan Willie gets an amen from Lee Smith. Stormy Cyclone says it's the best quote of the night. Thank you. The potential ACC collapse has gotten a lot of publicity this summer and probably deservedly. However, the Pac-2 and Mountain West dance might be more dramatic. It seems like there is a new theory every day. Yeah, it's a better movie, but it doesn't draw the audience.
Yeah, it's an art house project.
Yeah. It's definitely like the ACC is Deadpool and Wolverine, and this one is like at the menu.
Everyone's Googling that right now.
If you haven't seen the menu, it's a fantastic picture. Could you see Urban Meyer returning to Florida? No. If he returns anywhere, it would be Ohio State.
Or in handcuffs.
Or in handcuffs. Ha ha ha. Because when chicks grind up on you, you're supposed to just put your hands above your head, guys. West Virginia has a football and a men's basketball GM. Rich Rod is at Jackson State, if you were wondering. He's at Jackson State. I could see Jeff Traylor from UTSA going to Baylor to replace Dave Aranda when he gets blown out after this season. It's funny about Dave Aranda. There was this talk like not even 2 years ago about him taking over Nebraska, going to the NFL, and after last year, they're ready to push him right out the door. So
timing is everything, right?
Okay, well, let's put this question out to the audience. Audience, who do you think is the first fired this year? Name the first coach you think gets fired. First major coach from a P4 program that gets fired this season. I'm still putting it on Billy Napier. I have to. But
I'm definitely going with Billy Napier.
Yeah, it looks like we got another Napier. Yeah, everybody's saying Napier. Texas State G.J. Kine was another G5 coach. Billy Napier. Napier after a loss to UCF. Hey, Napier might be out of a job by the end of this show, guys, the way we're rolling. Jeez. Everybody thinks it's Billy Napier.
You hate to see it, except for I love to see it.
Who is Billy Napier? Steve, he's a terrible football coach that they hired, and they keep trying to catch thunder in a bottle or lightning in a bottle twice with they got Urban Meyer out of Utah and think, well, we can take these small time make them big time coaches, and it has not worked out for them.
Yeah, he's the Ron Zook of Rich Rodriguez's.
He's the Zook of Rodriguez's. Come on, guys. BYU coach could get fired first. I think Nate would disagree with you on that one.
It's expectations, right? Like they don't have the expectations yet as they rebuild everything.
Billy Napier. No, that's my Jeopardy answer in the form of a question, Ding Bell. I didn't know we were playing Jeopardy. You don't have to submit them in the form of what is, who is.
But this question would be the $200 category because it's not that hard.
Absolutely. It wouldn't even be $200 category on regular Jeopardy. It'd be $200 category on Celebrity Jeopardy. That's how easy that question is. And probably everybody would buzz in and get it right. They would just throw out the rule book and say everybody can get it right for saying Billy Napier. So, all right, so let's do a little reset here. 45 minutes in, we'll probably do another 15 to 20 minutes, guys. If you're interested, you want to leave a super chat, become a member, gift a membership, you can do it from the little cash icon below. Tonight, that'll be the only time I mention it tonight. If you have not, as of yet, hit the like button. That helps us out so much in the algorithm. If you're not a subscriber, consider becoming a subscriber. Those things are free and they help us out tremendously. Rock and Rant, did you see the Auburn recruiting coups this weekend, and what did you think of them?
I actually did not see. I was pretty much head buried inside of a Peacock. So give me a little bit of I'm generally plugged into recruiting. I just didn't see it this weekend.
They flipped a bunch of people this weekend. This was their big recruiting weekend. They flipped one kid who committed to Alabama, then committed to Auburn, then committed to Alabama. They flipped him back to Auburn.
That seems like a stable one. I think you can write that one in for December.
They also flipped a kid from Tennessee, I believe, and they signed one away from USC. So big recruiting weekend for Auburn. By proxy, because Alabama lost that player, Ohio State has the number one class again.
Yeah, and one thing I did see, because I saw it in the feed, didn't Alabama lose somebody to Minnesota of all places?
They lost a recruit, but it was actually that recruit that they lost to Auburn that dropped them down in the rankings.
Understood. Look, Auburn has all of the potential and the money to be what they should be in the SEC if they can just get out of their own way, right? So I think it would be good for a lot of college football fans to see Auburn dig into a little bit of what Alabama's got in state and make it a more competitive dynamic. At least make Alabama work for what they're going to get a little bit more than they do.
Ryan Willie says, I want what Greg's been smoking for predicting Oregon making the CFP title game. The only thing Greg's smoking is bacon, guys. I'm sorry.
Well, I need to figure it out because we apparently share the same smoke because I have Oregon in the exact same place.
I do not have Oregon in the title game. I have actually Ohio State versus Georgia. Or no, I have Ohio State versus Ole Miss, excuse me. I've got Ole Miss making a run.
Since my computer went down, I actually want to say I might have had Oregon and Ohio State in that game, that Big Ten, just the seeding stuff, but I can't recall offhand. But I know for sure that my preseason pick is Oregon.
Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. Much appreciated. Kerry Go Knowles with a Georgia Tech. We'll just have to believe that you're actually drinking.
Let him cook. Let him cook now.
See ya.
Let him cook. I said let him cook.
I mean, I think Kerry's already tailgating. Whether he's going to Ireland or not, I'm not sure, but I think he's probably fairly ready for kickoff to come and is probably exhausted by the ACC roller coaster, even though he puts on the fighting face on it all the time. I would be.
And we got a super chat here. Thank you for the super chat, Kerry. We got a super chat from our friend Steve Moser. Good show, fellas.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Let me give you let's give you a wild you.
They've been sucking you, and you're sick of it. I get it.
Youth's never going to live that one down.
No, literally never.
Much appreciated. Timothy Green says, I would seriously like to know if you think either Georgia Tech or Syracuse could make it to the playoffs.
That might be the most inorganic use of those two school names in chat since the rules were laid down.
I'm going to allow it.
I mean, Timothy knows better.
I'm going to allow it.
Well, you're just trying to recycle your bottle soon.
Ooh. Oh. Illini Ted says Auburn will continue to be second fiddle to Alabama, similar to Michigan State to Michigan. That has to be frustrating for their fan bases.
Well, I don't think that there's any doubt about that on the long term, right? But it still doesn't mean that you could be second fiddle to the best program in the country and still have a damn good program, and they have the capability of doing that if they can just get out of their way. So it's not like I'm saying they can do their things and overtake Alabama though any given season. it's more of just performing more to what their capabilities could be if they can rein in whatever the mess has been around there, and really let it have their coach deliver on what was expected when they hired him.
Kerry Gonal says he's not going to make it over to Ireland for this game. That would be cool, though. I'd like to play a game in Ireland at one time as Ohio State. Get a trip to Ireland out of it. Or play in Wembley. I don't know why they have to play in Ireland, per se. They could play in Wembley Stadium in London. This is for you. How long is the leash on Miami, coach, or is the knee dislocated?
It's a very long leash. The guy who brought him over just got promoted to interim president, is on the board of trustees, and Mario is on no degree of hot seat this year. If he doesn't deliver, like, maybe he has a lukewarm seat going into the year after, but this year there's nothing.
Is this game on ESPN? Yeah, I believe the Georgia Tech Florida State game is on ESPN. I think it's an ACC matchup, so it will be on ESPN.
I'm sure that coverage will be super awesome for Florida State. So, are they sending Kirk?
It's two Kings slots. Two Kings. Okay. Okay, yeah, it's definitely going to be on ESPN. I checked. Timothy Green says, I literally love watching you guys. Well, thank you, Timothy. Much appreciated.
Even when you can't watch me, which is probably better anyway.
Even when he's just a voice in the abyss. Wait, this isn't even really the guy.
It's AI. I trained it well.
Yeah, it's AI. Jose says, drinking dinner, Crown Apple, as it was a gift from myself this time. Damn thing's got me hooked. I'm telling you what, they make a $250 bottle of that Crown Apple called Regal Apple that I've heard is delicious. But you know what? I'm not spending $250 on a bottle of whiskey, let alone apple whiskey. Almighty Finn, good to see you, Almighty Finn. Auburn problem is there's 3 programs in the area that's better: Alabama, Georgia, and FSU. I would add LSU onto that as well, and Ole Miss.
Currently, but we're not that far away from Cam Newton season either, right? So it's not impossible for them to compete. Those schools were all, with the exception of probably Ole Miss, were all equally in stature when Auburn had a good run.
Auburn has a good run every now and then. I think that's the best they can hope for, is every now and then.
Yeah, it's not like Mississippi State level to Ole Miss.
It's like Michigan. Right? You summed it up great. It's Michigan State to Michigan. There's going to be years where Michigan State's going to beat Michigan and have their own little run that year. Lee Smith says, some FSU fans can't wait to show Kirk and Reese their affections in Ireland.
I wonder how many people travel over there, get really lit and really pissed about what's gone on, and never make it to the game as they get thrown into jail for throwing stuff at the net.
Oh, that's too easy of a layup to make, getting drunk in Ireland. Keep Chopping says College Game Day is in Ireland too. ESPN is all in.
They're going to make sure that Florida State doesn't get out of their grips.
Expedition Greg showed up late, but he showed up. Thanks for coming, Expedition Greg. Good to see you. Shonsky, flavored whiskey gives me a headache from hell. I just don't like the taste of it. I like my whiskey to taste like whiskey. I like my apples to taste like apples.
So no cheese with your whiskey?
No cheese with my whiskey. Ooh, maybe a good cigar sometimes. Stormy Cyclone says, great show, guys. Rock and Rant is not in the dark on matters. That's true. He actually knows what he's talking about.
I try.
Rohan, TJ, and VC Noel already planning for Herbie. Don't tell me anything. I don't want to be an accessory prior to the fact or after the fact.
Well, Rohan's planning to figure out how to make money by bailing all those guys out. I'm sure because he's a lawyer. He's going to figure out the way to protect the fam.
I'm not sure he's allowed to practice in Ireland though, so we'll have to see. Unless he's got a cousin, Doug McRohan. Ryan Willie says, "Have you the JD and Coke Zero in a can? Is that an isolated can of JD and Coke Zero? I've never even heard of that. But I would try it.
I'm a Coke Zero addict, so
I like cherry Coke Zero. That's my
same.
pick.
Yeah, either or. I knew you were a wise man there, Moen.
Yeah. Oh, I'll crash 6 of those in a day. They might need bail money too. Lee Smith brings it up. Will Buzzy be allowed to play kazoos? They're not kazoos, they're vazuzus. Vazuzus. And I'm sure they will let them play that. The vazuzu. I'm sure ESPN is going to have to censor some of the more colorful signs in the fan section from FSU. I think Florida State fans have a little more class than that to do something like that, guys.
I think you're drinking a lot of that bottle tonight.
Almighty Finn, if UF wins 6 games and makes us bold, does Sunbelt Billy get to keep his job? You got here a little late, Almighty Finn. We've all decided that Billy Napier's fired by the end of this show. Sorry, he will not make a bowl game this year. He will not get to keep his job.
We asked ChatGPT and it laughed, dude.
Jägermeister is a great high or drunk. Man. I'm not a fan of Jägermeister. I'm not a fan of Goldschlager. I was in college once. There's a time and a place for that, and that's exactly where it is, college.
Yeah. It is I'm very surprised by anyone who's over 23 that drinks that one willingly as their first choice option.
Yeah, it's a college kid drink, Jaeger bombs. Let's do a shot of Jaeger. Let's do a Jaeger bomb. Let's not. Let's have a nice cocktail. Lee Smith says FSU fans are still pissed with ESPN and Kirk and Reese especially. I don't disagree with you there.
They're so disruptive.
Yeah, don't be disruptive partners, guys. Come on.
Don't throw stuff at the net behind College Game Day, and don't throw up obscene signs, guys. You're so disruptive.
Yeah. Disruptive partner. That just seems dirty to me, disruptive partner. I think you were wrong about FSU class. I think I might have been being a little facetious. As a Knoll fan, I can promise you anything in Ireland. I can't promise you anything in Ireland.
I hope you have a lot of friends there, Sean, because you might need someone if you're going to the game to make sure you stay safe.
Yes, by all means, please do remember, regardless, you are Americans, and try and act like you have some sense over there. Don't be painting us all with a bad brush. I might have to go to Ireland someday. Stormy Cyclone says the way Georgia going, they might have more arrests than scholarships. He ain't wrong. And they wonder why these kids, you keep giving them Lamborghinis and Porsches and, everything else. And then they're like, well, I can't believe it got caught speeding. We give them a supercar that does 240 miles an hour on the street. Yeah, of course they're going to speed.
I mean, honestly, if Kirby goes pro, how long does it take for Mike Gundy to take that job?
That's true. He does. He likes to drive drunk though. But I think they ought to lean into it and get an NIL from Geico.
That would work.
I hate UF, so they need to keep Sunbelt Billy. And how long before Lagway plays? I don't know.
Game 4. Well, they have one of their early games is a game they should win, so he should get mop-up duty in that one. I can't remember what week it is. I'm hoping he has to play August 31st personally, because that would be a sign of positive things for Miami. I have respect for Florida State. I loathe Florida. No offense. I love you if you're a member for what you do for the rest of these guys, but personally, that's my most despised school, depending upon if we're playing Notre Dame that year.
Yeah, I don't think we have a lot of fans from Florida, or Florida fans, I should say. Daniel Gygax's a great South Park quote. There is a time and place for everything. That place is college. Right on. Here's another great South Park quote.
Student athletes. Oh, that is brilliant, sir.
Lee Smith, some FSU fans have class, but when pissed off, class goes out the window.
Hey, I get it. I mean, the vengeance isn't really going to pay off very well, but it might feel good for it, and the stories might be worth it for the next party you're having.
Timothy Green says, I also believe that Baylor will be looking for a new head coach after this year, and I think BYU will be looking for a new head coach after this year. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people looking for new head coaches after this year. I think the most high-profile job, though, is going to be that University of Florida job. And I think Lane Kiffin's going to take that. Best way to show up Kirk is to win the ACC title and make a run on the playoffs. That's true.
So here's the question. Florida State has the exact same season, except for one loss, and they're at 12 or 13, and somebody gets hurt. Will they get in because everyone doesn't want to hear the grief again, or will they not get in because they're a disruptive partner?
They better let them in, or they're going to be seeing some disruption. They might storm the Bastille at that point.
They literally might.
Lee Smith, heard rumors that FSU fans looking for locals to help with showing aggravation while not breaking Irish laws. That's the way to do it. Anything that doesn't involve breaking laws, guys.
Look, you got. I would be doing reach out to local soccer aficionados and figuring out what works.
Talk to your local, support your local hooligan. May UF go 3-9.
I'm disowning anyone that they may. I'm disowning anyone that doesn't have them ranked 13th or lower in their conference. I already told the rest of these guys that.
Yeah, I've got them ranked real low too. I think I've got them in front of Vanderbilt and Mississippi State, and that's it. Nice Arizona sunset behind Moen. If you want to call that Arizona, by all means, we'll say that's Arizona. I don't know where the picture's from. Two king slots with who is better at handling their fire water, the Irish or the Seminoles? Boy, that's blatantly racist. Not, and it's clearly the Irish. Ryan Willie said, like I said before, I despise Michigan.
I expected to put them lower in my rankings before I started paying attention than I did. So I think the relative surprise if people think they're going to fall off the cliff. I don't think they're falling off the cliff this year. I don't necessarily like them, and I think they should have gotten in a little bit more than they did. But I think the haters might be a little bit upset because they don't fall down as far now that Harbaugh's gone as people might have hoped or expected.
Kirby Smart has a lot more to deal with than speeding. The 2 counts of child abuse is really sad. Georgia's problems with arrest needs attention. Look, I don't disagree with you, but you'll be surprised how much winning can make the press overlook things.
Right, but I think we can name several other schools that at the exact same sequence had it gone on, there'd be Sports Illustrated covers coming out about them for whatever that means in 2024 for Sports Illustrated, which is a shell of its former self. But the thing that just drives me crazy is you're 100% right about that, but the hypocrisy and inconsistency on how different schools and different programs across the country are judged, whether that's who's making the playoff to who's getting raked over the coals for having a culture issue, is fairly disgusting.
The problem is that the main outlet for that is ESPN. And ESPN has to deal with the SEC. They're going to protect the SEC. And that includes the brands like Georgia. The only other one out there that's realistic as an option is the Athletic. And when the Athletic did that story, I think last year or the season before, they ended up raking that person over the coals for it.
Yeah, truth is truth, though. I hear you. I understand I understand the optics and the politics about it, which is why you don't see ESPN leading the charge on any of the realignment reporting around the ACC or Florida State. Same thing.
If Rule doesn't win this year, will he be retained? The Huskers have been so down, but the media always have super lofty expectations for them before the season starts. I think he will be retained at least one more year. They're not going to 86 him after 2 years, especially when he can always you can always rely on he's a true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think he's in danger. Plus, if you're Nebraska, do you want to be turned into the program that's getting rid of coaches this frequently right after an alum of yours, a legendary alum who was your athletic director, said, "Deuces, I'm going to Texas A&M." It's a challenging time to want to make that kind of change and hire. I think you got to build some stability and give him at least a full cycle of recruiting classes, even in this NIL transfer portal era.
Stormy Cyclone, can you see FSU fans holding up signs that aren't ACC in Ireland? I'm telling you what, if you really want to piss them off, bring Big Ten and SEC signs and chant BIG or SEC. That's the way you can be disruptive partners, people. Put Big Ten network, get your Big Ten network signs and put them up there.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can be creative to make the message come out that will stay and it won't get taken away at those kind of events.
See, Uga certainly has some discipline issues that keep getting swept under the rug. That happens at all schools. It's not just University of Georgia. But I will say this, the fact that they just keep giving these kids tickets in Georgia, in Athens, Georgia, instead of suspending licenses or pulling them in. I mean, I recall from that stop last year when they released the body cam footage, the guy basically told him, "Oh, you're a big star, and this will make all these headlines if I, did this, so I'm just going to give you a ticket." Okay. You give him a ticket for $1,000 that he can pay off. Yeah. Real punishment.
Yeah, the thing with the Georgia stuff is you would think that something would change within people's minds after somebody, people lost their lives to begin with. And now you're bookending it with a child abuse or whatever charge it was.
It was downgraded
down.
to family. Yeah, down to family violence.
Yeah, I mean, call me suspect about that kind of thing. But either way, it's not even just one off and two off. It's bookended by a couple of really bad and one massively tragic thing on the other side of it.
No,
so I hope they don't have to experience that again before people get their act together.
I remember the SI cover, What's Wrong with the U?
I do. And that's why I'm particularly sensitive to the discrepancy about things. It's the same thing of I'm more defensive of SMU than others because they got the death penalty for doing what a lot of other programs did. And it sucks that it took them 40 years to get there. I understand those who are mad about how they did it and got in, and I'm not even commenting on them getting to the ACC, but I hope they have success because their fan base has had a long journey that was started by an organization that we all basically despise.
Nick M., good to see you, Nick. Rule will get at least another year to show improvement. They've been abysmal for so long. They can afford to give Rule time. I agree, and they've also given him a huge contract, which certainly would make them more hesitant to fire him after season number 2.
Yeah, Tom Herman would probably be the kind of person you'd be able to get as a hire there. To go back to earlier in the conversation, it's going to be that kind of person who's, I don't know if you're getting the next guy making a big leap. I think you're getting somebody trying to make a leap back to where they were, and that's their next place back on their redemption tour.
Yeah, I think you've got to give him at least one more year after this one. Let's see how Dylan Raiola pans out. I mean, he was a 5-star overall number 1. Got to see how he pans out, even if he did transfer 14 times. If Florida State did what Yuga has done, they would be definitely all up FSU. But, well, you know, the old saying about the Seminoles, and I won't finish it because you already know what it is. Almighty Finn, I can't remember his name. He's a 4-star receiver. He was just arrested on 3 second-degree felony counts. He was. Keep chopping. If it wasn't Georgia, the head coach would have been fired by now. Loss of institutional control. I'm telling you right now, guys, there's lots of schools like that. It's not just Georgia. Last year, Jim Harbaugh should have been fired, and he wasn't. All kinds of crazy things happen at schools that protect people. So, Joe Paterno, that was the last one I can actually remember getting fired, and deservedly so.
And there's still a bunch of people there who are mad about that and want statues restored and all that other kind of stuff.
A family violence charge will get an 8-game suspension in the NFL. Georgia should remind them of that. Yeah, hopefully the guy that they just drafted, Cincinnati just drafted, doesn't do that. Yes, this is the one I was talking about. The AJC, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, fired their writer for writing a story on Georgia racing issues. Yep.
I did
100%.
not see that, but that's unbelievably pathetic.
The U was on its way back a few years ago, then NCAA went ham on them.
Yeah, you know, that one at the time, that little weird dude, you know, he did what he did. Again, what he was doing, he was out in the open and stupidly getting caught, but what he was actually doing was happening all over the Southeast at the same time.
Yeah, stop snitching. Penn State didn't really get penalized very much for as big of pieces of shit as they were. Well, I mean, you can't blame the entire administration for Joe Paterno. I mean, but I think we all agree, I think in hindsight, that yeah.
I mean, they'll never ultimately live down that history, right? Like there's no telling of the story where it doesn't come out. So there's an implied, you know, punishment, but you know, there are definitely people who are looking for much more stringent penalties than they actually got. So I understand that sentiment.
Right. Like, I don't want to get into it. I think Paterno got off light, to say the least.
Absolutely.
Moen probably remembers Paterno Osborne joke. One coach is Penn State, the other coach is State Penn. I've always heard that as Bobby Bowden and Joe Paterno. So, sorry. I agree. Penn State should have never been able to play football again at Happy Ending Valley. Very, very sad. Yeah, I agree. I don't agree that they shouldn't have been allowed to play football. I mean, you can't tag the whole program with their coach being a piece of shit. Since we're kind of on the subject, what are we going to do about the Ollie Gordon, the star running back for Oklahoma? He's not going to have anything happen to him. Nothing.
Nope.
He already said it at media days. Nothing.
Yeah, unless the school somehow comes in and tells him, or the athletic director, Raines and Gundy, then yeah, he's getting away with, you know, the shame of having to come talk about it, which, you know, I don't think you'll ever hear a head coach. I mean, I pray you never hear a head coach give that kind of jackass answer again in any situation like that. Mike Gundy basically wrote the worst answer you could possibly get, and hopefully nobody else ever follows it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's sad because he basically said, well, I can't punish everybody else on the team for Ollie Gordon's mistake. Well, you can punish Ollie Gordon. If the rest of the team suffers because of that, they should have an issue with Ollie Gordon, not with you. But whatever. Nick M., I'm not going to hate on any particular school for protecting players. I've seen them all do it. I do wish coaches and schools would do better at making mend. I think that means men. I agree 100%. It happens at Ohio State too. I'm not absolving Ohio State of it. Happens at Michigan, happens at Ohio State, it happens at Penn State, happens at any major football program you go to around here. They get treated differently. And it's just the way it is. Conundrum, Iowa wide receiver from Ohio State suspended for first game by Ferenc for OWI. There should be at least a 1-game suspension. I think we can all agree on that. It's
Absolutely.
all right. Let's wrap this up here, Rock and Rant. What do you have to say? What do you want to close out with?
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess we'll all be on pins and needles, depending upon who you believe on whether any of the things that TJ and some of those in the Florida State community are hoping or projecting happens. I'm very skeptical that that stuff happens this week. I would love if it happened this week, and I would be happy to be wrong about it. But I'm in the show me side, so let's see ultimately what happens there.
I am of the same belief. Seeing is believing. I want to shout out Ryan Willie, Kerry Go Knowles, and Steve Moser for your incredible generosity, gentlemen. Thank you so much. It's much appreciated. I also want to shout out the chat for the incredible questions and comments. Fantastic comments tonight. We had a great discussion. I had a really good time. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. And it wasn't all realignment for a change.
Yeah, we didn't talk really. We talked actual football. Let's try and do more of that. As far as programming, tomorrow at 8 p.m., the Big West Mafia with Sergeant Pickles and Becky Go Huskies. And then that Tuesday at 8 p.m., it'll be the Big 12 Mafia with myself, Ute, and Bomber. And then on Wednesday, we're going to do a members-only stream, The Sit Down. Definitely want to, if you're not a member already, you might want to become a member to check out that stream. It should be a fun one. So until next time, guys, I want to thank you all again. Been a terrific audience, and peace out.